trust. In my experience, one of the biggest unspoken factors that affects the success of moving towards a more agile way of working is trust. And I found it really interesting that trust isn't actually one of the agile values. It's not even one of the values of Scrum or Kanban, the two most popular agile frameworks. Now you could take that as a sign, I suppose, that trust is so fundamental that it doesn't even need to be mentioned. But I've tended to look at it as though that trust has been baked into the values and the principles that are present in things like Scrum, Kanban, Agile in general. I mean, if you look at the Scrum guide, there's the value of respect. And that's defined by the Scrum guide as Scrum team members respect each other to be capable and independent people and are respected as such by the people with whom they work. Basically, people are good, they're capable, they're trustworthy. And the Agile Manifesto has one of its principles that says build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Now, I said that trust is an unspoken factor, and that's mostly the case, but it's not always strictly true. Some of you have probably heard me tell the story before about one company I was working at a few years ago, where one manager explicitly said in front of other people that people are lazy and they can't be trusted with autonomy. In his words, people need to be managed. For most people I meet though, mistrust, if they do have it, is unspoken because it's not really the dumb thing to just come out and say, I don't trust the people I work with. Sometimes it's even unconscious. We don't realise that we don't really trust people that much. We haven't really thought about it that much. But our actions will always belie our beliefs. And you've probably heard before that actions speak louder than words. So it's important to face the fact that a more agile way of working does require greater trust. The good news, I think, is that trust isn't binary. And we can, first off, test the theory that people are generally trustworthy, and then build up our levels of trust quite quickly and iteratively using an agile approach. So imagine if you created two lists, one of people you trust and another list of people who you wouldn't say that you trusted. I'm pretty confident that if you looked at each of those lists, your levels of trust and distrust wouldn't be equal. You'd trust some people more than others on that list, and you'd trust some people with some aspects of your work or life that you wouldn't trust some of the other people on your trustworthy list. Also, if you needed to trust someone more, or with a more important or, say, risky task, then there are probably some things that you could think that you could potentially do to allow them to prove themselves as more trustworthy. I suppose one point that I want to make here is that most people would prefer to be in a position where more people in their organisation could be considered trustworthy. Just imagine, it would free up so much time and stress for yourself and other leaders. And it would also allow you to tap into creativity, engagement, and proactivity of your people as well. But to get to that point, you do need to give people the chance to prove themselves. And that kind of brings me on to a second aspect of the topic of trust that I just wanted to touch on. And that is that from my experience, leaders who start with trust, rather than making people earn their trust, generally get much better results and much quicker too. So what I mean by that is rather than start off with skepticism and hope that you'll be positively surprised, instead start with the assumption that people are trustworthy and give them your trust unless explicitly and, I would say, unequivocally proven otherwise. Now, I get that as a leader that could feel a bit scary because ultimately you might still be the person who's going to be held accountable for other people's results. But there are a number of things that you can do to help yourself. Firstly, hire well. Okay, hire people or recruit people internally for your teams based on their characteristics as much as their skill set. And then, secondly, give them just like the Agile Manifesto says, the environment and the support to enable them to be successful. And then thirdly, use the benefits of an empirical process to ease anxiety and increase confidence in yourself and other people that either we're moving in the right direction or that we're gathering information to help us find the right direction or improve things. I think this is a really important topic for leaders. So I'm going to be hosting a short Q&A where you can join me and we can have a bit of a discussion about the concept of trust from a leadership perspective. So you can either join me in person or submit a question in advance in the comments below, and then I will post a link to the video, the recording of that Q&A on trust.